has warmly welcomed you, sir. So we feel pleasure to and an honor to have you in this session. So we hope the interaction session will be follow on. And to bring a brief introduction about uh, Professor Ravi Chandra is that uh, he is widely nationally, internationally vibrant in the his reputation is available. We can also easily find in the uh, we can also find his status in the concern social media platform. I'll bring a brief introduction about him. Professor Ravi Chandran is, we can find it N. Ravi Chandran, Professor N. Ravi Chandran. Uh, he is a PhD in IIT Madras, MSc Maths and Annamalai University.
No, let me interest.
Okay, sir.
I am from
Okay,
Tata
sir.
Institute of Social Science. I think probably wrong
Okay,
Institute
sorry,
job.
sir. I think I got the something I did. Yeah, I was inprepared. Uh, yeah, well, yeah, we welcome you, sir. I think we can proceed and then have your experience about uh, the basic quantitative technique in research, because this is highly demanding and challenging in the research field. So we hope that you can throw some light on this regard, and then we will see to it, sir. Yeah, over to you, sir.
Len, just 1 minute disturbance from my side before
Okay,
I hand over the mic to Professor Ravi.
okay, sir.
I know that Professor Ravi is a regular, visiting fellow professor in our department in research methodology course. And since this is the time of pandemic, so we all are linked online. Professor Ravi Chandra is currently Dean Management Studies, Jamia Hamdard University, and he is a very good, researcher and very good, expert of methodology course. Sorry, time and again we used to take his help for research methodology workshop. You know that our department is by and large a new department which introduced master degree in 2013 and quite papers at undergraduate level. So research is a very, very important issue because research, project formulation, all these things are very important once we go for employment. So regular teachers are here. They are giving your input. I am trying my level best to my student and scholar to provide them, a kind of a additional input. You see, where you can get connect yourself with the research issue at the national and international level. So you are very lucky that a very serious researcher, Professor Ravi Chandran, is linked with you, and he will be giving his input accordingly. I may not be available throughout, so you can also ask question. You can also do whatever you like with him. As much you will try to be interactive, participatory, it will be very highly useful for them. In course of time, I will also request him to give some time for training on SPSS to our research scholars, and accordingly, as a very good teacher, as a very good researcher, certainly he will provide his valuable time in spite of his busy schedule, and this kind of connection will certainly improve our teaching learning process and improve the quality of researches in our department. So this is the purpose of my intervention of the experts at various level, that at 2 or 2:30 we try to link national international level experts on such area which are very useful to them, other than the regular teachers available to you. Thank you. I just hand over to Professor R. Ravi Chandran for this. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Professor Rajesh and student. It's well said the importance of the research and required quality to be focused, particularly enhance the knowledge in terms of documentation. So today, we would be discussing two things basically, where Professor Rajesh rightly said it cannot be one way. It is not like a theoretical subject. It is a more practical oriented one. So I expect everyone to participate and interact according to your either thesis or dissertation or MPhil dissertation or whatever you are working on, or a master level program, any kind of monograph, whatever you're working. So I would try to connect those subject domain so that we'll be able to understand the entire process. Okay. Am I audible? Are you able to follow me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are. Yes, you are.
I wanted to hear from other rest 15 who are online. So
Yes,
it's
sir.
not just only one individual communicating.
Yes, sir,
Okay.
you're audible.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. You are audible.
Okay. Uh, Today I'll be discussing the researching the process. There is a two kind of direction when we start any kind of research. One is like plan research methodology, where you try to do something of like what exactly you like to accomplish in your project, thesis, or dissertation, etc. It is a continuing process. At the same time, it has got two categories. One is qualitative, another is quantitative. So when it comes to the quantitative, majority of us not comfortable in terms of dealing with. I can assure you, after my discussion with you for a couple of classes or thereafter, you will be able to be more comfortable in dealing with in the quantitative techniques. So I can guarantee that as long as we follow and interact. Then second part is research planning. Research planning is like, is a kind of design that you would be adopting it. Or you like to see it in terms of outcomes or activity that is done. Like many of you mentioned that you are doing a kind of assessment project or reviewing the programs of the government or any other institutions, or you try to look at the skills competency mapping. So likewise, you are looking at it differently at larger level. So when we talk about the planning, it is specifically focusing on giving input to the overall framework to how to implement your thesis or how to implement your project. So I will be discussing these two formation. Okay. So when I say, when I interconnect between methodology and planning, that is research planning and research methodology, there are three types of research exist in overall frame. One is called knowledge building. That is, knowledge building is used in the form of secondary data based analysis, secondary data basically. Then it gives periodical updates. And of course, it provides the history of the particular process or content or trend. So what does it mean? The knowledge building means, say for example, I wanted to know in 2000 how the Delhi was looking like. what was the population, how many people were living with the water facilities or electronic facilities like a mobile or a AC or anything else. That means in 2000 to till 2021, how far the Delhi has progressed from one level to next level. That means I would be looking at today how many people are having access to the mobile or electronic gadgets or any kind of information related to the growth or quality of life. So that means the knowledge building exercise in the term in the research building, it is used to assess the entire mechanisms. This is analyzed for the kind of inputs for next level of research. That is second category or second type. That is called applied research. Applied research is basically action oriented. So wherever you wanted to develop strategic review or replanning of the program or project, so we use action oriented object. And within that applied research, there is another type is called operation research, where these operation research techniques used to help review the programs. So I could see many of you like role of NGOs in lifelong learning, the teacher educations and their capacity, or role of adult institutions, I mean like educational institutions. So like different kind of program you are going to evaluate. So whenever you like to evaluate, so you can use applied research techniques. That is another category, that is third. The type of research is pure research. That is nothing but policy research. Taking unless until you have strong foundation in the first two, that is knowledge building and applied research, that is intervention research. If we have strong hold in these two, then we can easily get into the third, that is a policy level research. That is called like perspective development or policy rethinking or overcoming any kind of policy paralysis. You know, so all this can be discussed in this type of research. That means getting into third type of research, that is a policy research, you need to have strong hold in the first two components, that is applied as well as knowledge building. Okay. Now, looking at that, I wanted all of you, those who are on this session, just look at the topic you are looking at. Which one you like to follow or which one you are following it. Many of times what happen, without understanding the trend and tragic of the research process, we straight away get into the design and the statistics. Then we say that, okay, our thesis is over, our dissertation is complete. So now can you tell me, looking at these three components, like a knowledge building exercise, applied research, or policy research. So can look at your topic, the kind of topic you are looking at, or kind of topic you are going to do it, or research already you have planned. Can you tell me each one of you so that which category you are following in? So can I start from them?
Yes, sir.
Tell me
Yes, sir.
which type of research are you following it? Whether you are following the knowledge-based exercise.
Yes,
that is
sir.
not-
Yes, sir. Mine is more like knowledge building and knowledge based, because my research is more like empirical in the institution. So it's a case study. So I'm following more on the knowledge building, sir.
The second one, any others? I wanted everyone to interact, whether right or wrong. Do not worry, nothing is right, nothing is wrong. But please interact.
Okay, sir, may I?
Yeah, please.
Sir, I'm able to locate my research in applied research techniques, or you can say operation research techniques, because I'm going a sort of evaluation in teacher education program. So I think,
Good.
am I right, sir?
Yeah, you are right. You are right.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Hmm.
Sir, may I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
Sir, myself, Binoy Job, I am a PhD scholar. I just want to know, though I've started, can we also do a pure research, as you said, in a policy level research for a PhD research? Can we do a pure research or a policy level research?
Absolutely. Like, the purpose of doing any research, whether it is a master level or MPhil or PhD level, whatever the level, ultimately it's supposed to benefit somebody. Who is that somebody? That means reaching that people, that larger people, you need to have policy direction. Okay. So you can do it. Certainly you can do it. So that's where in India we lack in good quality research. Both student also not that much interested in doing that type of rigorous exercise, or the guide also not interested in doing that type of mentoring. But if you go to Europe and all, every student supposed to go and work on a program and give a kind of direction to the program and implement and experiment as well as see the result, and finally come out with how to scale it up, how to expand the program. So this is what they do it in Europe. They do intervention based research, like same the applied research only. Okay, so we can do it. It should be done. I think we can try it.
So within the pure research or a policy research, do we need to segregate as a qualitative research or a quantitative research, or pure policy research is separate as it is?
See,
Sir.
qualitative and quantitative are techniques. It's just a techniques. It's not a research.
Okay.
Is a techniques how I collect information. Okay, you are using somebody who are good at in statistics or comfortable with the mathematical formula, they might go to quantify them. Somebody who is not comfortable, they wanted to work on minimum case, so they go qualitative. Okay, these are techniques in the form of collecting information, knowledges, resources. But it is nothing to do with the research. There is no qualitative research. It is called. It is called qualitative techniques or quantitative techniques.
Okay, sir. So whichever method, qualitative or quantitative, I use, I can focus on a policy level research on the.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Sir, can there also be a combination of, let's say, policy level and applied research?
Yeah, there is a thin line between these two, because when you are implementing a, say, for example, somebody told me she is going to do a competency mapping, the skill mapping of the teachers, particularly the prospective teachers or who are just joined new entrant. So she will be skilling or trying to do assessment on them, be done the skilling. Now, what happened to that? Current, there is a policy, they call new education policy. Okay, the same new education policy was brought way back in 2013. That time nobody accepted it, but now the same new education policy came back to 2020. We accepted it without any changes or without any problem. The reason is what exactly you are looking for.
Okay, sir. Got it.
And how it is going to change in the process when you do interventions. Realized there shall be 4 years program at undergraduate level with more of skill empowerment to the youth. Young students should get more skill vertical, so that after completing the particular 4 years program, they should be employed anywhere. Now we are adopting the same. That time we were not ready methodologically, that is by structurally, design wise, which design we will be adopting it, so that methodologically we will be able to implement. That time it was initial thought process that did not allow us to continue. But now we were ready, because 2014 to 2017, or you can say 18, we ran umpty number of skill-oriented programs in this country, various levels, various technical levels. Now we are gained kind of platform where we can provide information or knowledge and take it to the next level. So whenever you try to link between these two, you need to undergo the past experiences that came in. Then accordingly, you need to look back. Then we will be able to do that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Any other like to add on?
Yes, sir. I'm going to. I want to research on how tourism can boost the economic condition of India.
Economic condition of what?
Economic condition of any country, like how tourism can affect boost the economic condition of any country, like for example India.
You are going to talk about post-COVID experiences.
Not exactly post-COVID, sir, but like how tourism can affect like the economic condition of India, travel and tourism.
Okay. See, probably you need to be little organized. Like when you say tourism, there are three layer of tourism exist. One is like going for different monuments, historical sites, that is like or kind of historical places. Okay, that is one kind of tourism. That is people.
Can be, sir, hospitality also.
The second is medical tourism. That is medical tourism or health tourism. That people come from one country to another country or one place to another place for a health purpose to receive it. While receiving the health benefit or medical services, they also would visit nearby sites historical sites or whatever. And the third, there is entertainment. Okay, so you need to focus which one you are going to look at and how it is impacting on the particular society in terms of GDP, gross domestic product, or income, or adding value to the particular community in local. So you can look at those angles. So certainly it will lead you, but you need to specify one particular dimension.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you are true, so next level, I'm just going to take it up. How the research processing have two further categorization. That means I'm going little depth of the topic. Like for example, we talked about the types of research, that is knowledge building, applied or interventional research, or third policy or pure research. So further going depth of it, how do I formulate the hypothesis, or how would I require to test my assumption or proposition? In this, there are two kind of process. The one is called deductive process. What deductive process would do? It is a logic wherein theories and hypotheses are tested. In the deductive process, you can develop a theory or kind of model, and that could be tested through hypothesis. Second, it explains and understands the phenomena which you are aspiring it. Aspiration is towards outcome. Whether, say, for example, when you are going to develop a competency mapping of the teacher, whether the recruited teachers capable of delivering with the focus of new education policy, and they aspire the result of the new education policy in terms of outcomes. And the third part of this deductive process is you can generalize for a betterment. That means you might be doing it in a small scale, but I can expand or scale it to the next level so that larger number of people can benefit. So I can give example like somebody is doing the role of NGOs in lifelong learning. Okay. Now, if you look at that part, lifelong learning, how many NGOs? Then again, you have to categorize them, whether they are exclusively working on this lifelong learning or they might be doing with other projects. So that means linking between livelihoods and the learning. When the combination goes on, then you can think about sustainability. So whenever you can try and link these two kind of components, you can generalize them. Okay? So deductive process would help you to develop that kind of process. But many of times, people like, go for a deductive process, they predetermine the result. That is absolutely wrong. I'll just give you an example. Say you might have noticed when you are traveling from out of your university or on the road, if there is an accident takes place in particular area where you are walking or traveling it. So what happened to the individual? That is a second kind of story. Okay. So what happens? There is a policeman would come, the number of people will come and create the accident picture. They create a map how the accident took place and who is the real culprit and who is the victim into that. That means they go back to the past. Step by step, they go back and try to see that, okay, this is the assumption they develop. Okay, this might be true, this might be false, or this might be true. This assumption may be correct, this may not be right. So they might have mixed the entire process. So this is where the deductive process used in every kind of past assessment. Okay, to understand how the deductive process is helping us to undergo particular theoretical development or model development. So we use deductive process. And another category that is called inductive process. Here, it is a kind of efforts to verify the pattern or outcome that expected. Secondly, based on the evidences, it sequences the logic. That means we have got all information. Say, for example, today COVID-19, coronavirus we are talking about. We all knew that when the first wave came, somehow, likingly or unlikingly, we accepted the lockdown and we could control the much expected damage to the society. Because when the China was alarmed, American or European were experiencing devastating process or undergoing that painful process. So by the time it happened to them, we could do things in advance. But whereas currently we had laid down activities. There are certain activities supposed to be following. That is protocol, COVID protocol. We never done it. That is the pattern that has been there to verify expected outcome, like sanitizing every then, or keeping a mask that we are not doing it or not followed properly. And third, social distancing it. So all this tragic led to different kind of outcome or devastating experiences now we are experiencing in the country now. That leading to now second wave and the second lockdown. So this is called inductive process. That means you are getting all logics in front of you and you are putting into basket, assembling it, and see it how you can develop a further model or theoretical understanding. Okay. So in this process, so deductive is a backward one, inductive is little forward one. So you can think about which kind of research process you are doing it for your thesis. So can one by one can repeat like according to your topic of what, which process you are expecting to.
Sir. Yes, you have mentioned my since my paper is more like I'm collecting the number of how quantifying how many NGOs are involved in the promotion of adult and lifelong education in India. So it's more like I have assembling the quantifying the NGOs and then bringing to the process. It's more like deductive process, and it's like I'm moving taking forward, sir. My paper is.
Yes, good. Yeah, any other?
Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Sir, I am working on dissertation, and it is. I think mine one is related to detective process because I am working on the youth, the education and health of the youth in Yamuna Khadar, Delhi. It is a part of Yamuna where the agriculture laborers are living there. So I am working on that. So I think it is a detective process.
May exactly what you are looking from the particular community? What could be
There
your outcome?
My outcome is I'm working on their education means वो लोग कहाँ तक पढ़े लिखे हैं.
You want to know the level of the literacy.
Yeah, sir.
Okay. So that you can try to take it up inductive way so that you can develop a policy ideas.
Okay, inductive one.
Yeah, deductive is already passed and many people already doing it one or other form. Like you know the reasons. Now we know why the farmers or farmer children or even that type of migrant laborer or agricultural laborers do not
Yes,
get
sir.
into the education as a first priority.
Yes, sir.
So then you see, you know the facts, you know the logic behind it, you know everything.
Exactly.
Now take it a little forward so that your research can be more of a kind of direction to the policies or interventions.
Okay, sir. So inductive one is better for me.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, sir, may I explain mine?
Yeah, please.
So likewise, I'm exploring the identity development as a phenomena in prospective teachers. So mine form of process which I will integrate in my research is deductive kind because it explains and understand. It will explain and understand the phenomena, which is identity development of teacher, and maybe generalize upon that. So maybe using the theories, pre-existing theories. So I think it will involve a deductive process. Thank you.
Yeah, you are right. Like, but in India, yeah, please.
Sir, I have a doubt. Likewise, if I explore the identity formation phenomena and I got some new things new things in the development of teacher agency, prospective teacher agency, then it will give new knowledge to the pre-existing theories also. So it comes into the deductive process, or I'm just a little bit confused about these concepts.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, your is well falling in the line of detective one. What I understood from your concept is you are trying to follow the existing theories and models and draw factors from that, that is dimensions, whatever, or what we call it in research term, it is either parameters or item we call it. So once you do it, where you can think of developing a different kind of hypothesis and testing it and say, yes, these are the skills are required to develop a particular identity, or the identity means what identity still that need to be clarified, the definition of that identity, and whether you are defining it is in terms of culturally or still technically in terms of knowledge based, or you are looking at in terms of skills, knowledge, attitude, and practice on what we are looking at. So unless it is clarified, it will come out with new model or new theoretical understanding in your domain itself. So deductive process will help you to set up in the same direction.
Okay, sir. It is much clear now.
Okay, good.
Thank you, sir.
So particularly when you are going to look at a teacher's educations, nowadays you might be knowing that there is a AP, academic performance indicators or academic performance scores. Different teachers are uh, assessed. I mean, all teachers are assessed on the basis of those indicators. So you can look at those performance indicators, or that is called key result areas likewise. So that will help you to come with a new component or a new way of looking at, because the educational domain getting changed very drastically. What we had experienced in 2014 and 15, now it got entirely changed. So you need to equip next 5 years or down the line how this model would help or strengthen the teachers, particularly having the identity in terms of knowledge or attitudes or skills or performance, whatever means you like to define.
Okay, sir, I will look into that because there are many theories around that and many thinkers around have worked upon that. Um, like Erickson have talked about the identity constructions in adults, and Michael Foucault has another concept of identity. So I will look upon that, sir, and
Good.
I will try to limit the definition of identity in my research that I need to look upon.
Yeah.
Thanks for the suggestion, sir.
Any other? Anyone like to add on?
I think you can carry on, sir.
Okay. Okay. Now I like to broadly put, I mean, like, you already studied, as I was told by Professor Rajesh, you already went through basic methodology, particularly understanding qualitative or a little bit about quantitative as well. So here I would like to put the kind of the technique, or we call it, or tool we call it, available for qualitative research. Though I am not going to discuss all this in detail, but just outline it so that you will be able to recollect all those components or the tools and techniques. One is case study. This is one of the qualitative techniques we use. Then case series we have. Then we use longitudinal, particularly study-based designs like trend analysis. Then we use cohort-based study. We use panel-based and retrospective one. And many of time we use cross-sectional study, also survey. But in the case of quantitative, we like to see everything in the form of statistical outcome or kind of quantified in numbers, either in a percentage or absolute figure, etc. So here I would be comparing between qualitative and quantitative. Say, for example, in the qualitative, the first component called sampling. The qualitative, generally it is a personal judgment. Okay, I would be working with a particular X community. I'd be taking this X number of people or Y number of people for the study. That means you are already prejudging the particular number. Whether it could be a 10, it could be 50, whatever the number you decide. But whereas in quantitatives, it is a predetermined. That means we need to follow certain statistical method to select the sample. Number of sample supposedly be you are going to take it for your study. That means predetermined. It could be like a 200, it could be 100 or whatever the number. Based on your study, you would be defining the number of samples. That is predetermined. In the qualitative, the research design, the methodology is more flexible. But in the case of quantitative, it is predetermined. Yes, I wanted to choose this particular direction. I had to go for a data collection, means I have to collect. It is could be a open-ended question or semi-open-ended or fully structured question, whatever. That means you are predetermined and it can be changed. You have to follow the same format. But whereas in qualitative, there is a flexibility available. But in the case of how to inquire the data collection or inquiry about the particular problem or understanding, say for example, why in agricultural setup, very few agricultural family members going for the same kind of profession. Like me, a farmer's son is not ready to become a farmer. Why? There is an inquiry on that. Somebody is trying to assess in that thesis. Okay. So here you can have a multiple number of methods, more than one method you can use. Like either you can use case study, or you can go for a case series, or you can go for cross-sectional, or you can look for a long trend. Okay, last 25 years, how many farmers family has promoted their next generation, their children to become a farmer. So you are looking at that angle. So that type of time you can use for a more than a method in qualitative design. But in quantitative, it is a fixed. You can use only particular method. It is whether it is survey or whatever the form. It could be only one method. There's no secondary or second kind of influx to be used for identifying it. The fourth one, variables. In quantitative, there are broad range of variables. Like, we keep it little open. For example, if somebody was talking about identity of the teacher, if it is a qualitative study, it's going to be like, more range. Culturally, how particular teacher adopting it, or socially, how the particular identity has been explained to strengthen the knowledge, or technically, education-wise, knowledge-wise. So you can look at different kind of broad range of variables. But in quantitative, we try to reduce fixed particular number of variables. We fix it. Okay, we wanted to these many variables we like to look at. For example, if you want to develop a model, if we have 150 items, certainly you will not be able to develop a model. You need to collate them, combine them, or mix kind of permutation combination to see that which can be put in the particular terminology so that it can address the particular dimensions. Okay. So here, statistically, the dimensions are controlled and it reduces the number of variables. Then data format. In qualitative, it is very flexible because there is no certain format. Because if we speak to one individual, we'll have a different story. If we speak with the same person with the same topic, we'll have a different story. That means we need to look at how individuals are looking at their perception and perspectives. But in quantitative, it is fixed. Last one is interpretation. Here you are trying to substantiating relation to reasoning. Qualitative, we try to substantiate the relation through reasoning it. But whereas in quantitative, verifying the relation through statistical testing, that is hypothetical testing or assumption we call it, or preposition we call it. So if you look at the way you interpret also have different kind of meaning. That means quantitative technique is a technique, or you can call it as a tool. Okay, generally I don't accept this as a research. It's a one technique or tool could be used for your particular research processing. So the difference between the quantitative and qualitative in sampling, research design, inquiry, that is identifying the problem, statement of the problem, variables, or data formats, or interpretation. So you have to look at these broad parameters differentiating between qualitative techniques and quantitative techniques. So can you look at your study and reflect upon? But I mind you, not necessarily that you have to stick to the one particular. You can go mixed also. You can mix both qualitative and quantitative also for your study. I just give you another one example so that you can be able to follow. Say, for example, those who join in Delhi University, so 95% of the students are happy with the quality of the delivery or education by their teachers. That is 95% of the students happy with that. But still, there is a 5% of the student not happy with that. So, in that case, you wanted to quantify it, so you can go to only those 95 because they are already satisfied. But there are 5% of the student not satisfied the delivery or whatever reasons. So, you can go back to them with a quantified manner, identifying these 5% of the student and asking them why they are not satisfied with the delivery or quality of the delivery of the education. That means there you can use qualitative. That means in your study, you can supplement the quantitative with qualitative inputs, but not vice versa. You have only qualitative data, but you can give a quantitative inputs. But if you have quantitative data, you can supplement with the qualitative inputs. Is it clear to you all?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So can you reflect on how like according to your study, so that how you are planning it, this understanding will develop. My purpose of this entire discussion with you, whatever time I'm going to be with you, end of my session, you will have a kind of blueprint where you can follow the path to your outcome. So that's what the aim. That's why I'm making you to interact. I am asking you to speak out with your thought process, whether you are following the certain directions or certain parameters, or if you have queries, you can ask.
Yes, sir. Sir, like in my
Yes, Jyoti.
okay, during my research proposal, when I am writing it, I have decided that I will first conduct a quantitative research, like a survey thing, to find out how many women and men both were enrolled in the program of adult education at rural level, and then out of that, how many are continuing it, and how many were, how many have completed it, and then from that data, I will try to look at some population to as my case study, to have as my case study. So, will it work, or there is some?
Can you repeat once again, because your voice is cracking, so I could not hear it this time.
Okay, sir. My topic is role of adult literacy in transforming the lives of women in rural India.
Okay.
During my proposal making, I have decided to first conduct a quantitative survey to find out how many were enrolled and how many have completed and how many were continuing. Uh, how many were continuing, and then from that data, I'll find out. I will sort out some case studies to work as a qualitative one to find out the reasons of why they are not continuing or why they are continuing, how the program is empowering them or not, and the family and all these variables. So is it okay, or I need some changes? Because
Yeah. I just wanted to ask two clarification.
hmm,
One is, you already developed a certain kind of parameters or variables for your study.
yes, sir.
Okay. If you already done the process which you are aspiring, it is okay. But if you are not started, I would suggest use initially case study to even identifying the problem and variables,
Okay.
and from that variables or parameters we develop an item, that is quantifying the questionnaires, either structured questionnaire or semi-structured questionnaire, you can use it
Hmm.
and go for a quantifying manner. So what will happen in this process, you are refining the parameters or variables for your study very clearly, and based on that you can come out with like what number of people are benefited from this particular transformation or not. Those who are not benefited, then you can go for a qualitative input by strengthening the quantitative outcome.
Okay, sir.
But if you look at that way, your quantitative will be about 80%, qualitative will be only 20%. Do not worry that you have to do both the exercise. No, it will be very less. Those who are not transformed or not benefited only are going to interact with them. That means you are supplementing the quantitative outcome with the qualitative inputs.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because I want to find out the reason why they have not completed or why they are not like continue their education.
Yes.
So this will complement the quantitative data. This is the
Yes,
reason
very
why
nice.
this is like this.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Can I say?
Yeah, please.
So, as part of my research study, I have used the mixed methods approach, wherein the quantitative tool of questionnaire and case study and interview as part of qualitative.
Yeah, what is the topic about?
So, ascertaining the level of skills in the community and their awareness about recognition of prior learning.
Okay. Here, just for my understanding, I like to ask kind of make myself to think. That's what I'm looking at. I do research, so I always question myself. So can you look at little bit more like you are basically talking about intervention, operations based. Am I right?
Sir, I didn't understand intervention in the sense.
That is implemented. The project that is already ongoing or getting already implemented, you are going to visit those areas and fulfill your study objective.
No, sir, the project has not been implemented. One is just the awareness of whether they are aware about the policy or not, and second is how the skills have been acquired, whether it has been through a formal mode or an informal mode.
No, that's what you are talking about. That means somebody already understood about the informal mode or formal mode only can ask. Say, for example, you are going to ask me what type of skill I have informed, what type of skill I have not informed. So, on what basis you are asking it? That means something already on the earth, something on the platform, something
Right.
already implemented.
According to the policy framework of how those skills are categorized, according to that.
Okay. So you need to little bit define what is the nature and scope of the particular problem. Okay. So that problem is not clear what exactly looking at because you are talking about policy awareness. Say, for example, what policy awareness? Say, for example, Corona ka, everybody is going to have a vaccination 18 plus till 100 years plus, whatever. That is, everyone in India will be vaccinated, inoculated from May 1st in the age group of 18 plus and above. This is a policy decision. Okay, this is a policy already has been announced. Now, what you are going to ask to the people, are you aware about this policy decision like 18 साल उम्र के बाद आपको वैक्सीनेशन हो जाएगा ये पूछना जाना है or you are going to ask whether getting that immunization or vaccination will help you in terms of health benefits.
Right, sir. So more of an applied research, wherein, for example, if there is an intervention scheme taking place for them to get accredited for their skills, so will they be open to that or not, and do they see that as an increase in their employability?
That's good. See, now I'm just trying to help my understanding. So you can ask another question, like, this is what we have to build. Like you can ask what kind of status the particular problem right now, and what is requiring now, and what is required to be expanded or modified. That is next level. Maybe we need to ask. Okay, so we need to ask different kind of thing questions like what is the status now, what is required now, whether that is getting filled or not, what required to be modified or what required to be expanded. Okay, if you ask a couple of more questions like whether you want to ameliorate the problem significantly, whether the awareness which you are talking about, that is called intervention. What you are talking about awareness means that is already have been implemented. That you are talking about whether the implementation is reaching the people, how far that is benefited, how far it is effective, what would be the cost. So you can ask a couple of questions so that you can have a complete direction on that.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Anyone would like to ask more questions or clarify their research approach? May take time, please.
Okay, thank you, Liam. Sir, I have slight confusions while conceptualizing my research design. Sir, may I ask?
Yeah, please.
Sir, I conceptualized my research design as a longitudinal case study to explore the identity formation of prospective teachers in a BLEd program, which is a 4-year degree program. So, in in that process, I'm slight confused कि जो longitudinal case study है वो फर्स्ट ईयर, सेकंड ईयर, थर्ड ईयर, फोर्थ ईयर इस तरह से किया जाए डेटा कलेक्शन की कुछ सेलेक्टेड रिस्पोंडेंट्स हों, कुछ सेलेक्टेड स्टूडेंट्स हों फर्स्ट ईयर के, सेकंड ईयर के, थर्ड ईयर के, फोर्थ ईयर के। इस तरह से हम एक लॉन्गिट्यूडिनल केस स्टडी को कंसेप्चुअलाइज़ करें या फिर कुछ केसेस हम फर्स्ट ईयर से ले लें और थ्रू आउट द टाइम दें, जैसे-जैसे वो कोर्स परस्यू करते हैं, सेकंड ईयर में जाते हैं, देन थर्ड ईयर में, देन फोर्थ ईयर से में, देन इस तरह से लॉन्गिट्यूडिनल केस स्टडी को कंसेप्चुअलाइज़्ड किया जाए। सो दैट इज़ माय कन्फ्यूज़न कि एक लॉन्गिट्यूडिनल केस स्टडी को किस तरह से कंसेप्चुअलाइज़ किया जाए विद रिस्पेक्ट टू एक्सप्लोरिंग देयर आइडेंटिटी।
Okay. When you say longitudinal, it involves time. There is a time, like we are already categorized first year, second year, third year, and fourth year. Okay. But yes, you said another component, other way of looking at conceptualization. That is, you are taking only the first year, and then every first year would count on. That is called cohort. You are talking about particular cohort based. So don't go for a cohort based. Why I'm suggesting not to go for cohort now? Because the first year student will take time to pass out. That means another 4 years to be in the schooling, then getting into the particular next level or job or any kind of activity, and seeing the result will be little longer time. But your PhD time is very shorter. So better you focus only longitudinal, where we already said you will be covering the time series based, first year, second year, third, and fourth. And you have to look at the maturity keeps changing it. The student who are interviewing at the fourth year, he or she will have a different kind of need or different kind of expectations. And the third year student will be little serious towards, because next year he or she is going to pass out. Her interest or his interest will be entirely vary. When it comes to the second year, not much focused, still looking for a clarity or looking for a kind of opportunities, getting in terms of knowledge or resources, etc. But whereas in the first year, they are still in the venturing, like not understand the learning itself, the curve itself. That means the every level, the first year, that variable is different. Second year, the variable would be modified. A third year, the expectation would come in. The fourth year, regressive process will come in, because the demand in terms of skill, job, or further schooling, or etc., all will come in. So the mindset would build differently. So longitudinal will help you to go more interesting and define your research.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now I can conceptualize through this way. Thank you, sir. Thank you for sorting this. It is very helpful.
Sir, it's Len here, sir. I wish to share and clear my doubts regarding my papers as well.
Yeah, please, we share.
Yeah, since
See,
my
I just before all of you, I am also student like you. Okay, I am also learning. Like you are asking and sharing your knowledge, information. I am also sharing. It's a two-way process. So we learn from each other.
Okay, thank you, sir. My paper is role of NGO in adult education and lifelong learning. So a case study of Indian Adult Education Association. So I'm identifying who are the NGOs involved. Then how many of them are involved, and what are the specific focus areas, what are their contribution. So it's more like quantifying the NGOs in a larger perspective, and then there is lots of requirement to dig out the historical performance and their works, so nationally, internationally, regionally. So it was quite lengthy process. So coming to the concrete procedures, so what will be the best form of to bring this concept clear enough that the paper is highly in a reliable methods. As of now, I follow more of the taxonomy of Maslow. Like that, I have doing the taxonomy, tabling all the NGOs and then in a category wise. So, sir, how can you give some suggestion regarding this matter, sir?
See, since you have just began your paper, okay, this also good partially add on your thesis. The role of NGOs in terms of lifelong learning or any kind of transformation to the community,
Yes,
you
sir.
need to look at their past practice and trend. And you have to certainly look at their profile. Profile is more important, particularly if the research is going to focus in India or if it is a northeastern state. I do not know where you are going to focus. In India, what happened is the NGOs are driven by the money, not by the vision.
Okay.
Okay, they might have, when they started, they might have had a good vision. They wanted to serve the society. But over the period, they got changed their idea, mindset. They keep on adding, like, they started with the poverty alleviation program. Then fund is not available. They started with the education. Then when the fund is go, they move to livelihood. They keep on changing it without changing their constitution. That means the organization are doing it only sake of survival or not for bringing kind of sustainable change in this community or kind of impact. So that is one of the reasons that India, so many NGOs are there. There are 5 million plus NGOs are there, but none of them could bring change. They all done only temporary inputs, support mechanism from the government or institutions, but that not done that. So you can look at that whether this profile has any initiatives. Like, for example, one education, adult education based NGO put 30 years in the life in the particular community, but still there is no improvement in the particular community. Why? Or there is another NGO working on livelihood and added this adult learning or lifelong process as an add-on component. There is a benefit, there is a change. That means the dynamics of the even organization, you keep changing it. So you need to look at the dynamics of the organization. So for that, you need to go a little bit trend oriented, particularly the past, look back and categorize different kind of NGOs into different categories. Like those who are exclusively working on this lifelong education process, or those who are having add-on process with the livelihoods, or those who are with some kind of organizations, like with different categories, and see the comparative picture on how they are doing it.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to ask their some queries? Otherwise, we have been quite an hour and 1 hours ago, so we will wind up soon. So if anyone wants to ask their question or clear their research synopsis approach, may take time, please.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, in the process of preparing a synopsis, sir, what the main things we have to notice before preparing a synopsis?
I'm basically co-research person. Okay, I do not follow any kind of particular format like what you're asking it. For example, if you go for a applied research, there is a certain kind of format you can think about it. If you go for a knowledge based, you can think about it. But basically, like for you, particularly the academic orientations, like you need to look at what is the statement of the problem, what do you want to do or intend to study, what is the statement, what is the problem to be identified. That should be your introduction. The statement of the problem, the introduction, the problem, how to introduce the problem of your study. That should be your first page of your thesis or dissertation to be. Then we can look at strengthening the problem. You have to give some background. The background in the form of literature, supplement them with in favoring it, or against it, or countering it, anti-countering it, like that. Then, once your background is done, you can look for a rationalizing your study with the help of the gap that emerges from the background literature. The significance of the study. That means why you are taking it further, leading for, or leading on the particular problem on to have solution. Then you are talking about what kind of objectives you can define. Then in the process of objectives, you can say what kind of research planning you are going to have and methodology you are going to adopt. And automatically the data analysis and other tool going to be used for the study can be explained. And subsequently, you can say that these are the outcome, these are the process mechanisms, or scope of the particular study, all can be outlined.
Sure, sir. Sure. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other queries, questions? Yeah.
If there is,
If
okay.
you have no questions, I just like to add on a couple of things for next class.
Okay, sir.
You like to start kind of statistics oriented, or how do you like to go on? How much you are aware about it, or like to start from the basics? Basics means I am not going to teach you the formulas. I will only tell you how to interpret the data. Okay, for example, if it is a regression analysis used through SPSS or find out the value, now how to interpret the data. So I'll be training you only on the interpretation, not on the formula, and we don't require to learn it. Yeah, there is a software available, either SPSS, or if you all have SPSS, I think you can try. I think the demo version might be available from the sites, so you can look for it and download it. So we can discuss on that. Or if you don't have, or we can go for R. There is a program called R programming, Python, or you might have heard about it.
Yes, sir.
I can train you on the R side. Of course, a little bit programming to be learned. So I'll train you so you can use it for that. Easy. The software is available free of cost. You can download it from the website. So either way, we can think about it. SPSS, okay, already structured version. So you can learn it very easily. R also it is very easy to learn. So whatever you are comfortable, so accordingly we can go on.
Okay, sir. Sure, sir.
Okay. My question remains that you like to go with the like kind of statistical orientations, or first we discuss only the design part. Design part we will discuss, and simultaneously by examples and way of discussion we add the statistics, so that we understand the input of the statistics for quantifying the variable and how to interpret those outcomes.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay, sir.
I
That
think
will
the
be good.
second option is good, if everyone agrees. The second option.
Yes, sir.
Statistical one.
That would be helpful, sir.
Statistical one, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm also agree.
So you want me to start with the basics, or you want to do like basic means like mean thoda touch karte, then we'll go slightly upward to little like regression, other kind of analysis?
Sir, we will go through the basics, and so that you can ask us about little bit basics, and then after we will go next one.
Okay, so everybody agrees that we can follow the same style, so it is not an issue. Okay. Okay, before winding it up, I would like to know any questions you have related to today's discussion or any kind of queries, or you like to give suggestion to me to change my communication style.
I think it was quite okay, sir, because since we have been recorded, it will be put into YouTube, and then those who are not able to participate, I think they can see the session we have. So it is in English medium, so I think everyone can see to it. I think it will be much helpful for them also.
Okay, it seems to be fine.
Yeah, sir. Yeah, well, I think we have almost 1.5 hours. I appreciate all the participants for their active participation, paying attention to what their results, reflecting on their approach, and then asking queries to Sir. And then it's an honor and it's a pleasure to have Sir Ravi, sir. So it was quite interactive. We have, I don't know, from your side, we feel we are very glad about what you have been sharing to us. It was insightful ideas that you have given in our research. What are the methods and technique that we can come up with, or synopses, or those who have been in the beginning, or those who are in the advanced stage of compiling their research. So hopefully we will see in the next session that we can have more time on this. So I thank you so much for your time, valuable times. May you be safe, and then we pray that all of us can come together in the near future in this platform like this. Thank you so much, sir, and thank you participant for your kind attention. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, we ended here. We can end up
Thank you,
here.
sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Len.
Thank you, Saya.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Len.
Thank you, Gitanjali.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Jyoti ji. Yeah, Rajeshwar, thank you, Rameshwar ji.
Thank you so much, Rameshwar. Yeah.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया यार, आपने रिकॉर्ड करा और अच्छा
It's
से
really helpful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rameshwar.
उन्होंने ध्यान से रिकॉर्ड करा और बाद में अपलोड करेंगे. आई थिंक